The Practical Guide into Writing a Research Proposal. Lesson 5. Distinctions between action research and philosophical research. Action research. This research normally contributes towards solving the existing problem in an organization or in a community. At the end of the research, the researcher would come out with recommendations for certain parties such as the management, the organization, or the government to adopt and adapt the recommendations when facing a certain problem. Action research. Some of the common objectives of an action research are: 1. To identify the factors that contributes to the failure of Malaysian-made products when competing in the European market. 2. To study the impact of fuel price increase on the well-being of low-income earners in the country. 3. To determine the main factors that cause severe losses to Barisan Nasional in the previous general election. 4. To measure the relationship between certain variables and the underlying problem so that an improvement could be proposed. Some of the common objectives of an action research are: 5. To examine the effectiveness of national service program in fostering unity among the multiracial society in Malaysia. 6. To discover issues and elements that contribute towards the worsening of a current problem, and to determine the best solution to the problem. 7. To compare the effectiveness of different policies in minimizing the problem in the short-term and long-term planning. Some of the common objectives of an action research are: 8. To evaluate the influential factors that contribute towards poor demand for proton cars among the Malaysians. 9. To develop the key performance indicator, KPI, of the service provided by organizations such as government departments, banks, car service centers, fast food restaurants, private hospitals, airlines, public transportation systems, or the performance of Wakil Rakyat. Philosophical research. 1. This is an academic research. The research normally contributes towards the enrichment of the existing body of knowledge in a particular area. 2. The researcher will propose his own theoretical framework to describe the current phenomena and intends to establish the relationships among variables of interest in his framework. 3. The researcher could also test the validity of his theoretical framework in different environments in order to determine if the theory can be generalized under different industries or populations. For example, the researcher develops his theoretical framework to describe the relationship among service quality, customer satisfaction, and customer loyalty based on the underlying theory found in the literature. He supports his framework using some comprehensive literature. The literature described research done in other environments such as healthcare industry, hospitality management, and financial services such as banking and insurances, but not in the industry of higher education, since the industry is quite new, at least in the developing countries like Malaysia. One. He intends to test whether his framework is also valid in the higher education environment. In this case, he is doing a philosophical research since his research would enrich the literature of service quality, customer satisfaction, and customer loyalty in the higher education industry. 2. For this type of research, the researcher normally needs to come out with his own theoretical framework of the study. 3. The framework should relate his expected relationship between the independent variables and dependent variables in the study. 4. The researcher should clearly define his independent, dependent, and moderating variables, and how these variables should relate to each other in the study. Remember, 1. Theoretical framework is a schematic diagram that shows how the variables of interest in the study are related to each other as theorized by the researcher, or the researcher uses the existing framework in service marketing and includes certain variables to the model. 2. In this case, he needs to justify and argue the rationale, with support from the literature, for the proposed inclusion of certain variables/constructs to the existing model. 3. Then, the new model, improved, is considered as his contribution. Thank you for watching. Please continue Lesson 6.